Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Had to cough. So this is Salima requested Army of Satan, part 21, Darkside of GMOs, genetically modified. I just keep thinking food, but genetically modified objects. Food industry. Okay, let's get into it.
I think that's such an important topic in the sense that there's a contentiousness in this field of GMO that's politically charged, socially charged, almost religiously charged, because it's the food we're feeding to our children, and there's an emotional intensity to this topic. And one of the things that's weakened our position as consumers is the sound of, this almost sounds like a conspiracy theory, right? But in fact, it's not. This is just the march of human behavior and big business over a century.
First of all, what's a GMO? Genetically modified organism. They're swapping individual genes or sequences of genes, pulling it out of one organism's DNA and putting it into another organism's DNA. The process itself creates a lot of problems, and they don't even focus on that. They focus on the traits. So here are the traits. Now, there are 5 major genetically modified food crops: soy, corn, cotton, canola, sugar beets. Also a 6th, alfalfa, used as hay for animals. All of those 6 are engineered with a trait called herbicide tolerance. They take a gene, generally from bacteria, and put it into the DNA of the plants so that the plants can be sprayed with certain weed killers that would normally kill them. So Roundup Ready crops can be sprayed with Roundup. Liberty Link crops can be sprayed with Liberty. And the crops absorb these weed killers, which are poisonous, and we eat them. So we'll be talking about in the summit what could go wrong by eating a weed killer.
Isn't there the the banana? I believe that is so. There's been a fungus that killed off a ton of these bananas, and when I say we, I don't mean the U.S. It could be, hell, I don't know. But they have basically genetically modified the banana. What is it? The Cavendish? That's the kind. There were a ton of kinds of bananas. I actually, those words came out of my mouth. I'm an idiot. So there are a ton of kind of bananas, and they, for whatever reason, weed killer killed them, or insert reasons. But we ended up taking one, the Cavendish. Anyways, we pretty much use that as the standard banana, and from what I know, which isn't much on the subject, those bananas are now beginning to see issues with like new bacteria and new diseases that have now just become accustomed to whatever it is that, you know, is sprayed on them. And there's a very real possibility that the banana, as we know, and I don't know when, maybe in our lifetime, maybe in our kids' or grandkids' lifetime, could be completely wiped away, and now you're scrambling for a form of a banana to start to crop and you know, or grow But yeah, I keep saying Cavendish, and I think that's the banana that was able to survive a lot of these other things. And so we're pumping out basically one standard banana. I could be completely wrong wrong on this, but I believe I'm correct. Maybe not 100% though.
The other type of crops are the Bt producing crops. Bt is Bacillus thuringiensis. Basically, it's a poison. It's an insecticide. It breaks open the stomach of insects to kill them. It comes from a natural soil bacteria. So they take the gene out of the bacterium, put it into the DNA of corn and cotton plants. So now these plants are registered pesticides. So about 80% of the crops that are genetically engineered are engineered not to die when sprayed with poisonous weed killer, and about 20% produce a poisonous bug killer.
So our food won't die, but everything else around it dies. The bugs, the worms in the soil, all the weeds. And
the good bacteria in the soil.
The good bacteria, it soaks into the plant and it does not wash off. The problem with that is that there's a chemical in it called glyphosate, which destroys our gut bacteria. 70% of our immune system is there. Without that gut bacteria, we can't produce tryptophan. Without tryptophan, our bodies don't produce serotonin. Without serotonin, we can't regulate blood sugar.
An incredible statistic is only 0.1%, 1,000th of a percent of the glyphosate or Roundup that's sprayed worldwide actually hits its target.
Wow.
99.9% of this chemical is going right into our water systems as wash off and never reaches its therapeutic target of the weed, if you will. The terrifying thing about that toxin is that it is water soluble. And nature makes the vast majority of its toxins in the form of lipid or fat soluble toxin. And that's important because those toxins can be sequestered away by mycelium in the soil, by the fungi, or can be sequestered away by your fat cells so it's not in your bloodstream to be exposed to your brain and other things. So fat-soluble toxins are kind of nature's approach. Water-soluble toxins, this man-made approach, is very frightening because it goes everywhere. And once you dump this into the environment, it's going to go into the water table. It actually evaporates and goes into our air, ends up in our clouds, rains back on us. So we create this whole ecosystem of toxin.
Well, then you know what we have to do? We have to start eating it and get used to it and graze on it, and then just become genetically modified ourselves to where we only eat those chemicals. See? Huh? I'm thinking ahead. I'm protecting us. Maybe. Probably not. I love hearing the stories about Monsanto where, let's say, a farmer has a Monsanto product, all right, and he decides he's going to go with a different company, you know, sometime down the road because the other company offers him a better deal, whatever. So I'll just use corn as a reference. So he's growing some corn product, and the farmers are incentivized to snitch, tattletale, tell. And so a common thing that happens is these people will contact Monsanto and say, hey, the farmer down the street who is his competition, he's growing Dale's corn, right? But a couple of the stalks of corn, they're Monsanto. So Monsanto goes to that farm, sees it, because they have a way of verifying it, sees it, and then sues that farmer and basically wins. And that farmer can lose his farm and just goes bankrupt, basically trying to pay this lawsuit. And the reason why this one thing of corn could have been growing, maybe that guy went in and planted it. Things can blow in the wind, and just settle. But because of that, the one piece of corn, that guy can get sued and be completely gutted. And that's the one thing I hate. Because of that, I hate Monsanto. Just completely hate them. Because it's like, really? And that's in our legal system? That's okay? Okay, that's ridiculous.
Glyphosate had actually been discovered in the 1950s, around 57, 58, by a Japanese researcher. And he had put it on the shelf, I think realizing that this toxin would be horrible in the environment. So he kind of discovered this organophosphate and had patented it. Monsanto bought that patent for pittance and then moved it into consumer use. And its first patents were really around its use as an antibiotic, not as a weed killer.
Really? And
so that is an interesting little tidbit, is that they understood what this toxin was doing to biology, even though they've claimed, continue to claim that this doesn't have any human biologic toxicity to it. They knew that it was killing life at a very basic level, at this microbial antibiotic effect of it. It's been repatented over the years as an anti-parasite, as an antiviral, all these different things. And so they have seen that everything this touches, whether a plant or a bug, it kills. And the way in which it does that is interesting, that it actually blocks the ability of this enzyme pathway, which is called the shikimate pathway. These enzymes make the ringed aromatic amino acids. So we already took one amino acid kind of out of the equation with glycine, and then by this glycine toxin organophosphate, we block the shikimate pathway, and we suddenly lose the ability to make our ringed aromatic amino acids, which include things like tryptophan. Mm-hmm. And that's, it's such a subtle marketing tool that the companies have used. Glyphosate's now made by every chemical company on earth. The 5 big ones in the US all make it. And most of it's actually made in China now. It came off patent in 2007, so everybody's making this chemical now. And what they continue to point out from a marketing standpoint is that, well, there is no human target because this enzyme pathway is just in bacteria and plants. Mm-hmm. And so if we put it there, it kills them. But since humans don't have this enzymatic pathway, the shikimate pathway, there is no target for glyphosate in the human. That's what they've been claiming. However, if you ask what is that enzyme pathway and what does it do, what it makes are what we call the essential amino acids, i.e. the amino acids the human body can't manufacture. The vast majority of the amino acids in those 26 we can make on our own. So 4 of those essential amino acids, so at least half of them are now taken out of the equation. And so they say, well, this isn't important for humans because it just happens in plants. Well, humans rely on that plant or that bacteria to deliver those essential amino acids that we can't manufacture. So we've literally robbed ourselves of a subset of the alphabet. Wow. Imagine if you woke up in the morning and had to go to work and be as productive as you are today, but you could only use 19 of the 26 letters.
Right.
I think by and large the consumer has been so confused and blinded by this constant marketing, constant messaging that genetically modified crops are a necessary thing to feed the world.
Right.
We have 7 billion people. We have to feed them. we would have starvation if we didn't have GMO crops.
And I've heard that before. And so, what is your take on that? You know, is there validity to the assertion that without GMO crops, we're going to have worldwide starvation?
My take is no, not even close. If we took GMO off the market today, we would still be feeding the world with the same inefficacy that we are today. We have starvation. We have the biggest famine in human history happening over in sub-Saharan Africa right now. There is zero news coverage.
Right.
There's zero political interest in the fact that right now there's over 100 million lives at risk of dying from starvation in the plains of Africa right now. And we have thousands and tens of thousands of people dying daily over there right now from starvation. So, number one, we're not feeding the world. Not because we're not growing the food, but because we don't have the political infrastructure and the societal awareness to distribute food correctly. So starvation is never a growth or production problem. I think it's always a political problem. Mm-hmm. Second piece of this is there was billions of people on the earth in 1995. 1996 we debuted GMO. We weren't starving of lack of production in 1995, so therefore we had to create GMO. So it's such an artificial argument that we would starve without GMO crops. We couldn't feed the world. It's totally bogus because we only have to back up 20 years to realize we were feeding the world then, we are feeding our world ineffectively even now with all of the GMO.
The FDA said we don't even need to test this stuff. It's completely safe. You ask the biotech industry, Monsanto on its website, no human tests are necessary. I say, yeah, a test is underway on all of us. The problem is there's no control group, no monitoring, no experiment. However, when you look at the animal feeding studies, when you look at what people say when they get rid of GMOs, when you look at what doctors say when they prescribe non-GMO diets to thousands and thousands of patients, when you look at what happens to livestock when they're taken off of GM soy and corn, according to the farmers and veterinarians, and when you look at the diseases that have actually gone up since GMOs were introduced, it tells a different story.
And if you have an ounce of intelligence to think that this ignoramus that we call Homo sapien can improve on perfection, can improve on the God-given seed, the seed of life. If you believe that man, this is called hubris in the ancient Greeks, this is what destroys man, is his arrogance, his belief that he can do things that he is not qualified to do. And the sign of an intelligent man is to know his limits. To know his limits.
I know that you would never want me to perform brain surgery, so that's a sign of an intelligent man. I'm good.
Really, we have to question what is going on out there, and our silence is complicity.
But I'm willing to do it for cheap. 20, 25 bucks. You just have to sign a waiver.
Silent one is complicit in the crime. If you stand by and watch a crime happening, you're part of that crime. You're aiding and abetting that crime if you don't do something about it. The hadith says, "As-sukut alamatu ridha." Silence is the sign of contentment. Silence is the sign of contentment. We should be standing up. The Europeans went out and marched in large numbers to prevent genetically modified food. And yet these things, people aren't even debating these things because we have an educational system that makes us docile, that makes us think like John Taylor Gatto said, it makes people accept orders even if they're stupid. It makes them accept. There's people that, there was an old lady in England, and she was pouring tea. She had her cream there. And as she was pouring it, she said, you know, something very strange about this cream. When I was young, I remember cream going off really fast. But this cream doesn't go off anymore. It'll last 2 weeks. My grandfather said he had an orchard, and he used to tell us if we found a worm in the apple, he said, I wouldn't eat an apple a worm wouldn't eat. Seriously, think about that, people. I don't want to eat a tomato that doesn't bruise. You go into supermarkets now and you think you're in a science fiction movie. The colors are different. Where are they getting apples like that? I don't remember apples that look like that. I didn't remember strawberries like that. Seriously, you think this is what's happening. You're watching this thing happening before your eyes. We need to wake up and take our lives back.
We should be encouraging organic farms. We should be encouraging organic gardens. We should be at the forefront of the urban homesteading movement. These are things that Muslims should be involved in.
Wow, that video went by really fast. Damn. That was very fast. That was very fast. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. I remember I do remember some debate about GMOs, and I just like this, I legit thought so I had a burp cough. You didn't want to hear that nor see it. Yeah, I remember the GMO talk, where they were saying, you know, they're treating food with they're treating food so that, and this of course is what I was told, and I did no research. I was just like, sounds legit, you know, and it was like strawberries. Strawberries are, and I don't know if this is a GMO, but strawberries are being bred in the US to be bigger, to counter like wild strawberries and the older strawberries. And the reason is that, would you rather have a peanut or a peanut this size? It's just a remote, but you know, well, this is you're gonna eat less of these as opposed to these, so you are eating less, you're filling up more, so you're not spending as much money. And then it was, you know, that was for strawberries, and then it was for the genetically modified foods. We're doing that, we're spraying them so that they'll last a little bit longer. We can help get them out to feed the poor, hungry, starving. I heard all that stuff, and I was like, okay. And then I started hearing about, you know, people are getting sick and this and that, and it was, the GMO issue was brought up. Is that really safe? And so I always took it as, it's not good for you. But when I go to the store anymore, I couldn't tell you what isn't and what is. You know? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. So I'm gonna end this video here. There's a thanks button. You can donate to the channel. You don't have to. All donations are appreciated. Subscribe if you're not. If you don't want to do any of that, hit the thumbs up button, because YouTube is worthless, but, you know, it's supposedly good. They got stupid people that work for them. I already ranted on another video. I hope the YouTube headquarters catches fire and the doors accidentally get locked and everyone dies. You're going to see a happy person making videos, because those people deserved it. I wish nothing but the worst for them. So after saying all that, I hope you have a good day. And until next time, have a good day, have a good night.